Mic'd up.
Welcome to Yankees Coast to Coast. I'm Michael Miller, and I am surprisingly flying solo today as I adjust all my technology accordingly. Adam is one very, very busy man. He's like the very, very busy spider in the book that you guys probably used to read to your little kids. So it's post-trade deadline, so we're going to go through some quick stuff and see if we can talk about what the Yankees did, what the Yankees didn't do, and sort of grade out how they did in this fun and exciting trade deadline. So we knew going in, the needs were the bullpen, the starter, and third base. And we talked a lot about Ryan McMahon in the last show. Didn't cost him a lot, but long term, he's not a fit for this team because in the long term, the team needs on base percentage and higher contact. And he's neither of those things, but he's an excellent defender. And next season, with Grisham and Goldie gone, and possibly even Bellinger gone, you're talking about Jones being up. Bellinger, Judge, Jones, Wells, Jazz, Volpe, Dominguez, Stanton, and McMahon and Rice, since they didn't deal Rice, are looking like they're your predominant offensive players on the team next year. And the only ones with less than a 30% strikeout rate are Bellinger and Wells, which surprised me a little bit, but he's still at like 25%. Everybody else is going to be in the neighborhood of 130 to 150 strikeouts per player. And that's no way to win. They currently average 8.78 strikeouts per game offensively. Last year they were at 10 per 9 innings, and that's the rate that they were at over the last 3 years. And that's only going to go up in 2026 because you're going to have McMahon in there for a full season. It's going to go up for the rest of 2025 as well. However, they are second in on-base percentage at 332 behind Toronto, first in slugging, first in OPS, and third in runs scored behind the Dodgers and the Cubs. Those are all good things, but reality is if you have a better puzzle and a more attractive puzzle put together, we have more contact and high on base percentage, you're going to have less strikeouts and you're going to score more runs, and your offense is going to be a little bit more dynamic. Maybe you'll even run a little bit more, especially after today's trades. But the offense is going to be hurting next year, and it's a one-dimensional offense. They are purely a team that goes by OPS. They don't care about on-base percentage. They care about your combination. So we shall see what is going on. So what did they do this year? Well, they addressed the bullpen. We talked about McMahon, so we're going to skip over it. They addressed the bullpen. They got Bednar for Rafael Flores, Edgelin Perez, and Brian Sanchez. Bednar had a horrible 2024, had some injuries as well. He was sent down in early 2025 because he was just as bad, but since he's been back, he's been fantastic. 37 innings, strikeout rate of 34.5%, and a walk rate, he's only walking 5.5% of his guys. It's fantastic. His whip is below 1. He's better than he was when he was an all-star closer in 2023, and he's controllable for the full 26 season, and the Yankees are in danger of losing Williams, which I know Steve Carroll wanted them to lose him today, maybe not let him get on the plane today, even though he's still on the roster, as well as Weaver, who's a free agent after the season. Loizaga a free agent after the season. Quite frankly, I'd release him today, even though he got a save. Tim Hill is a free agent after the season, as is Ryan Yarbrough. So having another guy that is protected and controllable for 2026 is a good thing. And I don't think they really gave up a tremendous amount. Flores is, again, one in a long line of Yankee catcher prospects that are spread out across baseball. I mean, the Yankees have 3 right now, Nescara, Wells, and Rice, and Nescara obviously is in the minors right now. But you also have Navarez in the Red Sox, Torrens at the Mets, Trevino, who got better with the Yankees, and a couple of other prospects who they traded today, and namely Edgelin Perez, who was in the trade. He's the Yankees' number 14 prospect, and Brian Sanchez, who's a 20-year-old outfielder who's on the IL, but he's not in the Yankees' top 30. So overall, the Bednar trade, I think the Yankees did well in that trade, even though they gave up Flores and they do need a right-handed hitting backup catcher. Having Rice and Wells as your catchers really leaves you open to it. I'd rather them have a high defense, lower offense right-handed catcher as the backup so that they don't go backwards defensively when they bench Wells or Rice, whoever they decide. One of them should go in the offseason in a trade. Second one was Jake Bird that they picked up from Colorado. Yes, he's in Colorado and he has a huge whip, For a relief pitcher, that means he's allowing a lot of hits and walks. He doesn't really walk that many guys, but he has a higher walk rate than you want. And this is the first season he's ever had a strikeout rate of more than one per inning. So that's promising. And getting him out of Colorado, which has the biggest outfield in baseball, may lower his hit rate as well. But there's no excuse for having a high walk rate. He's 29, so he's not young either, but he is controllable for 3 more seasons, for 26, 27, and 28. What did they give up for him? Well, they gave up Rock Riggio and Ben Shields. Ben Shields was a top 30 prospect, and Rock Riggio was a top 10 prospect for the Yankees. And Riggio is what, if watching the Somerset games recently, he's what they call a hard-ass player or a red-ass player. He's a grinder. He's a guy you don't like playing against. From the moment he got to Somerset, the announcers on the team and the players on the team have talked about him being a vocal leader, even though he was new to the team. He has great chemistry with Lombard Jr. and allegedly is among the best double play combinations in all of Double A and certainly in the Eastern League. So that was something you gave up there. But you know what? He's having his best season offensively, so maybe they traded high on Riggio. And Ben Shields is a guy who's not really the hardest of throwers. So we'll see what happens with regard to that. He's the number 28 prospect. His curveball is his best pitch. He's crafty lefty type, but he's also 26 years old. So, lefties do mature a little bit later as far as pitching goes. But giving up Riggio, who's the 10th prospect on the team, playing at Double A, where the feedback from the announcers watching the games is good. I would say the Yankees may have taken a risk here, but Riggio's not going to be ready at least until 27. So they'll have Bird through 28 because of the 3 years of control that they have after this season. So I think getting Bird out of Colorado will hopefully make him better, but Bednar is certainly a good pickup for the Yankees. The other thing they did at the last minute is they picked up Camilo Doval, who's 28-year-old. He was a closer and lost the closing job in San Francisco in 24 because he was having trouble finding the strike zone. Does not allow a lot of hits. Opponents are hitting 196 against him this year, even though his walk rate is high. But he's also controllable through the 27 season, so that's 2 more seasons of control. He's also a high strikeout rate guy. He's got a little funk to his motion because he throws from 3/4. What did they give up for him? Well, it was an interesting set of prospects. They gave up Vierling, who was one of the guys they gave up. He was their 20 prospect. And he pitched yesterday, for a matter of fact, for Somerset. He has a high batting average against. He's not a hard thrower. And non-hard throwing righties, you know what? Yankees have a lot of prospects ahead of him on their prospect list that are pitchers. And they gave up Jesus Rodriguez, another potential catching prospect, also plays third base, who was their number 26 prospect, and he's at AAA. And he seems to be a very good offensive player. He has a strikeout rate of less than 20%, something the Yankees are missing. He has a very high on base percentage, which is over 400 at AAA. It was not as good at AA. And he seems to be stealing about 20 bases as a minor leaguer. That is a really good type of player that the Yankees could have used. Profiles defensively is not the best, but offensively, he fits a lot of the things the Yankees offense does not have. High contact, high on base percentage type player. So I think that might be the big loss in that particular trade, more so than Vreeling. And then the last 2 guys they gave up was De La Rosa, who was a 17-year-old in the Dominican. God knows what's going to happen there, but he is striking out a boatload of guys in the Dominican Summer League. And a guy named Park Harbor, he's a 23-year-old first baseman, third baseman, not in the top 30 prospects for the Yankees. He has also a low strikeout rate and high on-base percentage. Does not have much power since he turned pro. He did hit 20 homers at North Carolina, but his on-base percentage is also near 400. So the Yankees clearly are continuing their trend of concentrating purely on OPS, not focusing on putting pieces together to make a lineup. And that's something Adam has been busting their hump about, and I've been busting their hump about all season. As a matter of fact, Adam is still mad that Caleb Durbin is not on the team. Really, the Yankees lineup is not constructed well. It's not constructed well for playoffs. The Yankees believe the playoffs is a crapshoot. You know what? It is not a crapshoot. The teams with high contact rates and overwhelming bullpens, including usually one starter who goes into the bullpen, are the ones that do have high levels of success in the playoffs. The Dodgers did it last year with an overwhelming bullpen and 3 starters, including guys like Walker Buehler, who started and relieved in the World Series, and then an overwhelming bullpen, which they even fortified more today as well as during the offseason because they have more injuries than they know what to do with. But unlike the Yankees, they don't have a $300 salary cap imposed by their owner. So the Yankees did do something that they think is important for the playoffs is they did create an overwhelming bullpen. And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. What did they miss out on? Brock Stewart, probably a better choice than Bird. But he was out of baseball from 20 to 22, and the Dodgers let him go. And then he got traded back to the Dodgers today. Kyle Finnegan, the Yankees want no part of that guy. He's getting worse every year. Mason Miller, the Yankees had no chance to get him. They don't have what the A's wanted. There was no way the A's were going to not require Jones and Lombard, if not Jones or Lombard or Rice in the deal, or they were definitely going to ask for a lot from the Yankees. And Miller wants to start, and the Padres have been very good at continuing with King and also converting with Seth Lugo relievers to starters. And Mason Miller wants to be a starter, and with the 5 years of control that the Padres are going to have, takes him through his age 32 season because he's not a young prospect. Paul Sewald was a guy I advocated for in the offseason, but he's having a bad year. The Yanks didn't really want him and shouldn't really want him at this point. He was very cheap. Steven Matz would have been interesting as a multi-inning lefty, but, they didn't really have a strong need for him. Andrew Kittredge would have been a nice pickup as a rental for the Yankees. They gave up a 17-year-old high upside prospect in the deal that the Orioles gave up Kittredge today. Rafael Montero, Yankees have been there, done that, don't want that. Ryan Helsley, interesting guy, is a rental, would not have cost that much, but the Mets did give up their number 8 and 14 prospects for the rental. He's still a high K rate reliever, but he's not as good as he was the last 2 seasons. But he does have playoff experience, and since he's not going to be closing, which he probably wouldn't have been with the Yankees either, it's going to be interesting to see him as a setup man, which he did thrive at last year when he lost the closing job. Johan Duran from Minnesota would have been an excellent addition for the Yankees. Once again, with the years of control, I don't know that the Yankees would have been able to meet the needs that the Twins had. The Phils gave up a young major league pitcher who was a 2020 first rounder and another catching prospect who's in the top 100 of all of baseball. Caleb Ferguson, again, Yankees been there, done that. Tyler Rogers would have been a nice pickup. The Mets did a great job in fortifying their bullpen, I think, with Soto, Rogers, and Helsley. Tyler Rogers would have been, if you think about it, he is basically Tim Hill except right-handed. He is more of a ground ball artist than even Tim Hill is, and it would have been interesting, even though he would have been a rental, what the Yankees would have had to give up to get him. They did give up a couple of good prospects, the Mets, for a very usable reliever who's the ground ball king and would have been a great compliment for Hill. I would have liked to have seen a guy like Rogers come in, but the Yankees needed power arms, and they did allegedly get at least 2, if not 3, if you count Bird as one. Tyler Kinley, not a guy you wanted. Andrew Chafin, a guy Kramer loves, one of Kramer's favorites, is not having a good season in Washington. Sir Anthony Dominguez went from the Orioles to the Blue Jays, so the idea that the Orioles would not trade in the division is a little off. I think Soto was a better player than him, has a higher upside, even though he's a little bit more erratic. Toronto gave up one of their top 10 prospects. I don't know if the Yankees really wanted to do that. And Toronto's top 10 prospects are better than the Yankees. The prospect they gave up is having a breakout season with 115 strikeouts in 89 innings, and he's now at AA in 2 levels. And then lastly, at the very last minute, Griffin Jacks went from Minnesota for Taj Bradley, went to the Rays. So the Rays were both buyers and sellers during this. So Taj Bradley is a back-end major league starter who's not having the best of seasons. Could the Yankees have given up a back-end starter that's not having the best of seasons that is controllable? Well, Taj Bradley is a little better than Marcus Stroman. Other than that, the Yankees don't really have a back of the rotation major league starter. So what's going on with that? The other thing the Yankees did not address is they did not address getting a starter. Nestor Cortez got traded to the Padres, interestingly enough, for a former Yankee farmhand, Brandon Lockridge, who is not doing anything, and the Yankees gave him up in the De Los Santos deal. He's a 28-year-old guy now, and Cortez is a rental for a non-top 30, non-top 100 major league prospect. That might have been worth it for the Yankees if they really wanted to add a back-end starter and put Warren and Schlittler back to the pen. Dustin May, high upside, high injury. Red Sox gave up a very good prospect that they got in the Devers trade to get him. Would have been nice. Merrill Kelly went in a trade to the Rangers for two top prospects, two of the top 13 prospects. One at AAA that the Rangers have, and the Rangers have one of the best farm systems right now in baseball. Merrill Kelly's a rental. Shane Bieber coming off injury, but he's been 21 strikeouts and 1 walk in his rehab assignments. And the Blue Jays gave up their number 4 prospect to get him. That's a lot. Zach Littell is not really the Yankees' cup of tea, as a high home run rate allowed, which would not be good in Yankee Stadium as a right-handed pitcher. Not to mention he's now going to Cincinnati, so that's going to be interesting. Michael Soroka, not worth it. Eric Fetty, not worth it. The Braves just needed a body. So there's really nobody impactful that was traded that was a starting pitcher at the deadline. Alcantara didn't get traded. Cabrera didn't get traded. Gallen didn't get traded. Joe Ryan didn't get traded. Stephen King didn't get traded. Shane Bieber got traded. Okay, that's a good guy to get traded that they missed out on. But nobody else really got traded that was a starting pitcher. So the starting pitcher market, which you would thought was going in the wrong direction. Mitch Keller didn't get traded either. And the Yankees said they would only give up Jones for Skeens, which I'm sure the Pirates laughed at. And probably take Jones and Lombard to get Skeens, which I would do. So starting pitching, the Yankees didn't get anybody, but it looks like they didn't really lose out on anybody the way that they did at the bullpen, but they did recover a little bit, and I think they got some usable pieces. The problem they have is, why did they get Slater? I mean, there's no reason for him. Slater is a right-handed bat that hits only lefties. Why not go for Ramon Laureano from the Orioles, or Harrison Bader, who's proven himself to be an effective playoff performer and can handle New York, to be your right-handed outfielder? I don't understand what Slater's purpose on the team is going to be, and why did he start today against the right-handed pitcher? That made no sense to me. And then everybody's like, oh, Grisham, he's got a bad hamstring. Well, why did they put Grisham in at the end of the game on a wet field if he has a bad hamstring? Maybe they were trying to deal Grisham and they tried to keep him out of the lineup. But I don't understand what Slater's role is going to be on this team. He is a good defender and he is right-handed. So, I'm not a big fan of platooning Dominguez, but against tough lefties, I don't see the problem with sitting Dominguez. But I'm still not a fan of Grisham's. But Slater has no purpose on the team. They also obviously picked up Rosario, who can play second and third, some shortstop, left field, right field. Not a bad guy to have on the team. And he seems to really be active in the dugout in these first couple of games that he was there. And of course, he did get a nice pinch hit when he came into the game. So the Yankees made some deals, didn't really give up any of their major prospects. They still have all of their best prospects that they want to have on their team. As I take a quick look at the Yankees' best prospects, they didn't give up Lombard. They didn't give up LaGrange. They didn't give up Schlittler. They didn't give up Jones. They didn't give up Cunningham. They didn't give up Elmer Rodriguez-Cruz. They didn't give up Ben Hess, who's coming back. They did give up Flores, their number 8 prospect. They didn't give up Hampton, who's out with a Tommy John surgery. They gave up Briggio, their number 10 prospect. But they didn't give up anybody else. Pereira, who's the number 15 prospect, but they clearly had him buried. So there was nothing they can do. And Vreeling is a guy they gave up in one of the trades as the number 20 prospect. And the number 26 prospect they gave up was Jesus Rodriguez. I don't think they gave up a lot to get what they got, because the Yankees farm system is not that good. So what is the other problem the Yankees have? Well, they have a roster crunch now. The roster crunch is pretty bad. They gave up 2 guys from their 40-man roster in all of these trades, Peraza and Pereira. Peraza off to the Angels for international money, and Pereira off with a player to be named later in the trade to Tampa Bay to get Caballero. What did they add? They added 4 guys who have to be placed on the 40-man roster because they're going to be playing on the team this season, no doubt about it. And Duvall, Bednar, Bird, and Caballero. Also, Luis Gil is coming back from the 60-day disabled list, which means he's going to take a new slot on the 40-man roster. Now, this has nothing to do with who's on the major league roster, who's not on the major league roster, because if guys have options, they can go down. But they need to get rid of 3 guys on their 40-man roster. And obviously, they have a ridiculously full bullpen right now, where they have Weavers, Williams, Bednar, Bird, Duvall, Hill, De Los Santos, Loizaga, Brubaker, Hamilton, and Hedrick. That gives them 11 relievers that have been on the team or will be on the team. You can only have 8 because you can only carry 13 pitchers and you have 5 starters. So what do? That 40-man roster also includes Leiter, Cruz, and Yarborough, which gives them 14 guys in the bullpen. And those 3 guys are all on the IL list, but are on the 40-man roster. So there's at least 6 of those relief pitchers that I just mentioned either have to be released or sent down to the minors in order for the Yankees to have only a 8-man bullpen, which is what you have to have. So who else is on the 40-man roster that they can get rid of? Well, they have a guy named Michael Arias, who's a 23-year-old prospect. You really don't want to get rid of him. He seems to be improving. You have Scott Effross, who's not been good. You have Sandridge, who was up and down this year a couple of times, but he's 26. He really doesn't have much in him. And then you have Winans, that is also not a guy that really you need to keep on the roster. Among other guys that you have Escara. He's got options. You know what? You feel bad for the guy. He's got 10 years in the minors, but he's at the bottom of the 40-man roster. Vivas, who is a guy who clearly they can get rid of if they have Caballero. Winan, Sandridge, Effross. And Yarbo is a question of whether or not they want to keep him. So the question is, who do they get rid of? They have to get 3 guys off the 40-man roster, no matter what they do, and then decide who's on the 26-man roster. Could Slater be gone? I don't think Rosario will be gone either. Neither of those 2 guys. My prediction, personally, is that they're all going to say bye-bye to Winans, Sandridge, and Effross. Maybe Brubaker. I would not get rid of Effross, but he is 32, so maybe they do. I would dump Vivas. He's got no reason to be on the team. I know he's the remnants of the Joey Gallo trade, but you know what? I wouldn't do it. So they've got a 40-man roster problem and a 26-man roster problem, right? There's a lot of guys who don't have any options that are on the team right now, and there's a lot of guys that are on the team that have options. I think that a guy like Hamilton is in danger of losing his roster slot. I think, Loizaga wouldn't be a bad guy to just let go, even though he got the save today. I also think that there are other guys on this roster that don't belong in the major leagues. As I ran through all of those guys, De Los Santos, they're probably going to send De Los Santos down because of what he did today, because he pitched so many innings and had so many pitches that he had. So we'll see what happens with regard to the 40-man roster. But, Hill's not going anywhere. Duvall's not going anywhere. Bird's not going anywhere. Bednar's not going anywhere. Weaver's not going anywhere. And Williams aren't going anywhere. That's 6 spots right there. That leaves 2 spots. And I think they go to Leiter and Cruz. They don't go to Brubaker. They don't go to Loizaga. They don't go to Hamilton. They don't go to Hedricks. And they don't go to Yarborough. So that's a problem. Hamilton has options. Hedrick has options. Brubaker has an option. Loizaga does not have any options. So maybe they release Loizaga. But De Los Santos is clearly going to go down after pitching today. So the roster crunch is a problem for the Yankees. And I'm curious to see what they do. Of course, Boone was very non-committal because it's really not his place to make those decisions. It'll be interesting to see. Pereira will get his chance to play every day, probably in Tampa, and be up on the Major League roster. And Peraza will probably get a chance to play for the Angels a lot more than he did with the Yankees, although with the Yankees, he really didn't prove himself, which was very disappointing because in reality, he did beat Volpe out for the shortstop job as far as level of play the year that they gave Volpe the job, and Volpe has regressed since then. So it'll be an interesting rest of the season for the Yankees. It'll be an interesting roster for the Yankees. And we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully Adam is back, and we'll go from there. Michael Miller, Yankees Coast to Coast, and be sure to go to our YouTube page where all of our shows, since the beginning of time, are there. And most of you watch our shows on YouTube since we get 1 or 2 viewers when we do our live feed on the Mic'd Up app. Yankees Coast to Coast. See you soon.